So this is the Tamiya Hotshot. It was based on this catalog. It was reissued in 2007, which is this Tamiya Hotshot. The original Hotshot would have been released around 1985. It's very similar to the original Hotshot. There are some differences, not really that noticeable looking at it. I have to look at it pretty closely. I know the original has different dry shaft, the front here, as well as the rear. This part here is different, like an aluminum kind of piece there, or strength. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it was, I noticed it was, I remember it was being different. And also I believe the main dry shaft as well. And of course, some of the sponsor decals have been changed, and the original Hotshot would have the resistor type mechanical speed controller. Besides that, I'm not so much aware of other differences. I know there are, I just can't really think of top of my head. But for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much the same vehicle. So what I like about the Hotshot, not only it brought back childhood memory from a good friend of mine, comes from a rich family, and he had the Hotshot, and I had a little toy gray turbo hopper at the time. And this is what really got me into the hobby, just to see this thing go. Although it was only a similar motor, 540 back then, and a NiCad battery, but it was fast compared to what we were used to as a kid back then. So this one here, just a little bit story. I picked this thing up used, and the ad wasn't really that attractive. Basically a picture of all the parts in this box here. So it was assembled, it was running, it ran, and what happened was the previous owner took it apart because he thought he stripped the one of the gears here, which I happened to purchase just as a spare, one of these kind of idler gear for the front gearbox. So the main thing is, when he was assembling it, he forgot to put a spacer in there. So this thing wasn't seating properly, so it was moving. And also he had a brushless motor in there, and combination of brushless motor and this was not seating properly. It caused some overheating the front gearbox, and actually melted part of the gearbox. I'll show in a moment. So anyways, then I guess it was making clicking noise, and he took it apart and said that the gear needs to be replaced. However, when I took it apart, there was nothing wrong. Like I said, it was just missing a little like a pin in there. And when the manual, and I just happened to have one. I put it in there, reassemble it, and this thing been running really smooth ever since. I only ran it, this is like the third time I ran it since I put it together. I also want to mention that in the ad, it clearly states that there was no rims and tires. He used the rims and tires for another vehicle. So basically I got this vehicle, basically a bunch of parts, pretty much complete to build except the wheels and tires. Other than that, it was fairly complete, and I'm not going to complain. I got it for a fraction of what it would have been brand new. So I'm quite happy with it. With a couple of hours of work, it was well worth it. Also want to mention that the body was painted kind of like a copper, not copper, kind of goldish copper color. It was not bad, but it doesn't appear to be the right paint. So I removed the paint and painted box art. And the wing was clear, so I painted, but I was missing the decal that says four-wheel drive here. Other than that, this is quite the vehicle. I really like its quirkiness, this kind of weird design, monoshock in the front and monoshock in the back. I'm going to remove the body. So the body has one body clip there, and it pretty much slides right off. Oh yes, another thing I want to mention, for some reason, the previous owner drilled a bunch of holes here, and also around this chassis here. I put electrical tape here to cover it, because I want to keep the dirt, water, and whatever moisture, not what moisture, but dirt out mainly. So he said he did those holes to keep it cool. I guess it kind of makes sense because there's not much circulation air going in here once it's all sealed. So it's a good design, and at the same time it's also a bad design. Good meaning that it keeps a lot of dirt and stuff out, especially remember back then it has a mechanical speed controller. So so it's good to keep the dirt out. However, with a electronic speed controller, if you're running like a really powerful motor, it can overheat, and it could cause some serious issues. Not only another thing is that since it's all relative, not perfectly sealed, but you can see some of the gap here, it's hard to work. So the servo sits in here, and at the bottom here, if you have to replace a servo, you have to take this part off, part of the chassis apart, the gearbox out. So just replace the servo, you're probably going to spend 45 minutes to an hour to do it properly. So which is a little bit of time consuming. Now just notice there's electrical tape here. The reason I put electrical tape, is what I mentioned earlier, is say this part here, it's supposed to be flush with that. You see there's a gap in there because the gear, which is this gear here, wasn't seated properly, so it was like bouncing all over the place, and it was rotating so much that it melted or actually deformed this plastic here. But it says just softer plastic than the gear, I believe, and although I did buy the gearbox for the front here, but this is so minor, just put electrical tape to cover it, but it doesn't impact its functionality, or it's doesn't really do anything. Other than that, I think that's all I want to say about this vehicle, and I just brought it inside from running out in the snow. So hope you enjoyed the running video. It's my Tamiya Hotshot, the reissue. I'm gonna try a little bit of a snow run. See how it handles, how it drives in a relatively fresh snow.